Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Frank Cusimano. I am a doctorate of nutrition and metabolic biology. So for the past few years, I've been posting smoothie videos on my Instagram. And recently I started to share some of my favorite plant-based dinner meals. And there has been an outcry for some of the recipes. So in an effort to share some of the science and also discuss some of my favorite plant-based meal recipes, I decided let's start a new segment where we dive into some of these recipes and I teach you how to make some healthy meals. So today we have one of my favorite stews. It's a tofu and veggie stew. First things first, preparation is key. For those of us who are always on the go, whether it's family, work, or exercise, we want to make sure that our cooking recipes are fast and efficient. So the first thing to do in our preparation is to cut our mushrooms, our carrots, and our celery. Now, one of the reasons I love cooking with mushrooms is mushrooms are high in B vitamins, vitamin D, and are powerful in the antioxidant selenium, which we can only get from our diet. Next, we have our onions, our carrots, and our celery. Now, onions are anti-inflammatory. They may actually decrease our triglyceride levels, and they're high in the fiber inulin, which helps to regulate our gastrointestinal tract and also produce short-chain fatty acids from our gut microbiome. Carrots are a great source of beta-carotene. They are high in fiber, vitamin K, and potassium. And little known fact is that most root vegetables are actually very high in potassium. And also celery, which is a great source of fiber and also vitamin K. Now, for a lot of individuals that are busy, one of the things that I actually recommend if you don't have time to cut your onions, your carrots, and your celery, is you can actually buy pre-cut vegetables. And one of my favorites is actually from Trader Joe's, which is the mirepoix mix, which has your carrots, your onions, and your celery already pre-cut and ready. So for our ingredients, we have our veggie broth, tomato paste, mushrooms, already cut garlic, our cut carrots, cut celery, our cut onions, cubed tofu, spinach, and frozen corn. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take the mushrooms and we're gonna sweat it out and let those start to caramelize and get some of the good flavors to come out. So while the mushrooms are going, we're gonna go ahead and start the stew. Now the stew is a little easier. What we're gonna do is we're gonna start a base of just a little bit of our veggie broth. I'm gonna add the onions, add our carrots, and add the celery. And we're just gonna let this simmer while I check on the mushrooms. And now that we have the mushrooms going and we have the mirepoix going, we're gonna go ahead and start to caramelize the tofu. Now we got the tofu going. Now for the tofu, the reason we like to fry it is we want to make sure it gets nice and crispy on the outside. That way during the stew, it's not that soft tofu that you normally get in a traditional Asian stew, but this is going to be a little bit more pan fried first. Now while the tofu is going, I'm going to go ahead and add our tomato paste to our base, which is simmering in the back. So while the tofu's going, I'm also going to add the corn back to our back stew. Now, one of the reasons I love to cook with frozen corn is that corn is actually really high in fiber, as you could imagine, or maybe you know from experience. It's also high in thiamine and niacin, and also lutein and xanthine, which is also really good for our eyes. This is where I'm also going to add the rest of our veggie broth, bring it up to a little bit more of a stew. And as for tofu, there's always a lot of controversy over tofu. I love cooking with tofu. A lot of people, you may have heard rumors that tofu is bad for breast cancer or it's bad for testosterone levels in males. It's actually quite the opposite. And they found that, statistically, people that eat the most tofu have the lowest rates of prostate cancer. And for women who've had breast cancer, those who consume the most tofu actually have the lowest rates of breast cancer reoccurrence and have the best survival rates from it. Now it's time to add our garlic to our stew. I like to add the garlic last because it gets more of the flavor and doesn't cook it down as much. But one of the benefits of garlic is actually high in several potent antioxidants, it's anti-inflammatory, and it may actually lower both cholesterol and blood pressure. And there are several studies that have actually shown that it could improve athletic performance for all of the athletes out there. When the tofu is done, I always like to take it, get some of the oil off. So put it on a paper towel. We also want to make sure that the tofu is nice and golden brown, but not too burnt. Great thing about this type of tofu is it's easy to make, it's pretty quick, and then it's also great to add to a salad. I'm going to bring the stew back to the front. I'm going to go ahead and add our mushrooms that we already cooked down. This is going to let some of those flavors mix together real nicely. We're going to also add our tofu. Now we're going to move it to low and we're just going to let this flavor seep in and start to join together there. Now we're almost done. We're on the last ingredient. We're going to add the spinach. Now one of the reasons I love adding spinach and cooking it down just a little bit is cooking it down is actually going to allow us to absorb higher levels of the vitamin E, the vitamin A, the zinc, the calcium, and the iron in the spinach. You also want to add it last so it doesn't wilt down too much. And give it a nice stir. Now as you can see in this one, we didn't add too much of the veggie broth, so it's not a true soup, but it's right at that level where it's a good stew. And you know, if you're cooking this and you want something a little bit more, this goes great over a bed of rice or a bed of quinoa or a green if you want to add that. Lastly, we're going to add some cracked black pepper. All right, now for the plating, this is our final dish. We have our veggie and tofu stew. Now, thanks for joining me on this episode. Hope you guys learned a nutrition fact or two that you can take away. If you have any comments or questions, make sure to add them to the comments section below. And I look forward to seeing you guys on our next cooking video.
Get out of my way, I'm trying to make it look pretty.